If that threat of military action is to be carried out, military experts say it'll likely be driven by the US Africa Command, or AFRICOM. The command was created in 2007, and its first commander was General William Kip Ward. And General Ward joins me now on the line from Washington. Thank you very much indeed. We really appreciate your taking the time to talk to us. You are, of course, a soldier who rose to become the first commander of the US Africa Command, or AFRICOM. But are you a hawk? Do you support the idea of the US carrying out attacks in Nigeria to wipe out Islamist terrorists, as Mr. Trump is proposing?
Well, Charles, first of all, let me say thank you for bringing me aboard, and good to be back with you again. I'm here in the eastern part of the United States as a pure civilian these days, not involved in any of the government activity that matters. What I will say is that our military continues to perform professionally, and soldiers, sailors, airmen, Marines do, Coast Guards, as well as obviously our Guardians, do the things that are the legitimate and legal orders that are provided and given by our civilian authority. And so I'm not sure of where things are today. As I said, I'm not in the military any longer, nor am I in government. But when it comes to protecting citizens, people, governments have the responsibility to do that as one of their primary responsibilities. And I think that is operative in this case when it comes to what's going on, not just there in Nigeria, but globally.
Well, President Trump talked about going into Nigeria guns a-blazing, to quote him, with airstrikes or boots on the ground to wipe out Islamist militants in Nigeria. Are you concerned that Mr. Trump is talking about kinetic operations in Nigeria?
Well, I'm not prepared to discuss that at all. As I said, Charles, my concern is that the peoples of Nigeria have the absolute right to think that they are being protected by their government, by their security forces. And I believe that that is something that is important for all of our citizens, be wherever they may be. And I'm not, I don't know what the president had in his mind when he made those comments, what the actual piece was. I did listen to your correspondent there talk to the plans, the preparations that are done. And although I have no direct connection with respect to those, I do know that the commands have a responsibility to provide various courses of action and options. And then the civilian leadership determines, based on their assessment, their information, which course of action to follow.
Right. Okay. Let me put it another way. Mr. Trump said he was ordering the Pentagon to prepare for possible military action in Nigeria. I mean, is there any evidence of any preparation yet from your sources at the Pentagon or AFRICOM? Is Nigeria likely to soon be brimming with American military might?
Nothing that I'm aware of makes that assessment.
If the US were to proceed to intervene militarily in Nigeria, assuming that scenario comes up, how extensively would AFRICOM be involved in that operation? Because we know that the US has an Africa Command, which you once commanded, and which is responsible for US military operations in Africa.
Well, the expectation would be, as with any geographic command, AFRICOM being one such command, that it would be the responsible command to oversee military activities that would be conducted on the continent of Africa, the Indian Ocean island nations, et cetera. So, and that's the case of any of our combatant commands globally. Africa Command, European Command, Central Command, that is the responsibility of geographic commands, yes.
But I understand, General, that AFRICOM faces severe logistical challenges because, for instance, the US no longer has drone bases that it used to have in West Africa. It doesn't have a naval carrier strike group anywhere near the Gulf of Guinea. And the cost of bringing one to that area would be politically and financially indefensible, according to some military analysts. Do you agree with that assessment?
Well, no combatant command has assigned forces. And so when an activity is undertaken, an operation is undertaken, the resources that are required to do that are directed and prioritized to accomplish whatever mission that's been assigned. And so that is not something that's unusual, nor is it something that is out of the ordinary when it comes to the movement of forces. The global abilities of the United States to deploy forces wherever they may be required is something that's always been the case, is in the case in the previous conflicts as well as any future potential activities. And so that's not something that particularly concerns me because if something is required, the United States has the capability to provide those requirements.
And General, some military analysts have suggested that if the US were to intervene militarily in Nigeria, such a move would be fraught with lots of risks, operational limitations, and almost certain failure if it's not done with the full cooperation of the Nigerian government. What's your take on that?
Well, the point that you made is the point. Operations that are conducted, planned, must take into account the risk, the requirements for resources that are necessary, the amount of information that's present itself to understand the environment, and obviously in the cases where things are done in cooperation with partners, the assistance of partners and other entities that have like interests in solving a particular problem that may be at hand or some crisis situation that may be at hand. And so, yes, those things have to be taken into account. And as a part of the military planning process, those risks are understood and actions are taken to mitigate those risks whenever and as much as possible.
And General, all those years ago when you became commander of AFRICOM, you traveled through Africa trying to sell the idea to skeptical African leaders as not a threat, but a support. And you spent a lot of time trying to counter suspicions and misunderstandings. I mean, does the threat of military action in Nigeria throw all that out the window, or does it reinforce that message?
I think the time that was spent to counter the erroneous narrative was very successful, and we did that. That was done. The presence of the United States of America as it works with partners and friends to help reduce violence, help to ensure stability, has been being done successfully in cooperation with our partners and friends on the continent. And as you noted, it's been done in ways that have certainly led to stability where those activities were conducted in very successful ways. And so, no, the answer to your question, that is not threatened, I believe, because we still have an intent, a mission to provide for the security of United States citizens, support our friends and partners around the world as they work to protect their citizens as well. And as I said at the beginning, the responsibility of any government is to protect its citizens, and where they may require additional support and assistance, as that is requested, assessed by our government, and decisions are made to provide it and support it, then that's the case. And AFRICOM, as was in 2007, continues to be postured to do that in support of the United States national objectives and in cooperation with our partners and friends in the area that we operate in.
General, I know you've got to run in a minute, but if you were still in charge of AFRICOM today and you got the order to attack sites in Nigeria and to deliver punishment at the pull of a trigger, would you question the legality of such orders under international law?
Well, obviously, any action that's taken is subject to the conditions of international law, the law of land warfare, and clearly we would be doing things so as not to violate any of those international norms.
General, I want to thank you very much indeed, we appreciate the time that you've taken to talk to us, and I hope you'll come back and talk to us again. General William Kip Ward was the commander of the first commander, in fact, of the US Africa Command, AFRICOM, and he was talking to me on the line there from Washington, D.C. Thank you very much.